Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. My name is Brandon, and welcome to this Free State Colorado interview. The mission of Free State Colorado is to promote a culture of liberty, freedom of the individual, and a free market. Today, I'm joined with Taylor Rhodes, Executive Director of Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, or RMGO, as most people call it. Taylor and Rocky Mountain Gun Owners have been leading the charge against the evil gun grabbers in Denver. Taylor, I hope you are well, and thank you very much for joining me today.
I appreciate it, Brandon. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, hey, first off, I want to ask you what every gun owner in Colorado is wondering. Where is the 9mm? Where is the 223? Everywhere's sold out.
I think I bought it all. when this first hit, I was like, crap, I only have 4,000 rounds of 9. I only have 10,000 of 223. I better double down on that. So I went and bought my fair share. Most of the gun shops won't let me buy anymore because they know I'm hoarding it, but it's good to have.
Well, that's awesome, Taylor. Yeah, it's been a very interesting year for sure. A lot of uncertainty and a lot of new gun owners. According to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, there have been over 360,000 legal gun sales in Colorado so far this year. And for all the new gun owners out there, can you tell us a little bit about who Rocky Mountain Gun Owners is? What is it that you guys do?
Yeah, so first I'll touch on the gun owner stat. I think that's a pretty interesting statistic because, if you go into your local gun shops, even the most far left Bernie Sanders supporters are finally realizing that, oh crap, like I am responsible for my own safety. The police response time is not what we thought it was. There's civil unrest, all of that. But RMGO is Colorado's largest and most effective gun rights organization. We have a no-compromise approach. Our founder, Dudley Brown, who is now the president, founded RMGO in '96, and we're coming up on our 25th year, and we're really excited to hold the standard of no compromise for our members and our future.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear. And I hope a lot of new gun owners are excited to hear that there's this organized effort to protect our right of self-defense out there. And yeah, as you hit the nail on the head, I mean, we've seen the riots in Denver. We've seen increasing crime rates in Denver and throughout the state, car thefts, robberies, home invasions. It's crazy. You just tune into the news, you can't avoid it. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Police aren't going to be there when you need them. So you got to be able to defend yourself, defend your family.
Right. It's absolutely crazy. I actually live downtown Denver, and when the riots first started, I guess I'm 5 or 6 blocks from the Capitol, you could walk out on the balcony and smell the tear gas from the protest. It was the most unreal thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, you're right in the belly of the beast down there.
I am indeed.
The anti-gun capital of Colorado in Denver.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, Taylor, how did you get involved? What led you to get involved in the fight for our gun rights?
Yeah, so what brought me to the liberty fight originally was taxes. I was super upset about. I was in school in Mississippi at the time, and was super upset about the taxes that were being imposed. And spoke to my congressman, who was not a liberty lover, and started looking at some of the others, Rand Paul specifically, of the message there. When I got to Colorado, really before I got to Colorado, I've always grown up hunting and fishing and always been around firearms my whole life. But when I got to Colorado, I for whatever reason, I guess it's Western culture, my love for firearms just blew up. I don't know. I went from owning 4 or 5 guns to owning, I won't say how many, but a lot, more than 4 or 5. And met a guy named Joe Neville. I was working for the Republican Party here, and essentially told me, "Man, what are you doing working for these guys? You're one of us. Why are you trying to help push these other candidates?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, you're right." And got involved with RMGO and doubled down on my love for firearms and gun rights even more. So I am a true gunny. I'm a hardcore gunny, and my activism, while it didn't start in what I tell people, while it didn't start in firearms, my political activism, it's what kept me in political activism.
Yeah, well, Joe Neville and the Neville family have been, leading the fight for freedom in our entire state, and all us liberty lovers do owe them a great debt, and they've been awesome. So it's great for me to hear that he helped bring you into RMGO, and and the mission that they're working on, because I think there is a big difference between RMGO and a lot of the other so-called gun rights organizations out there. And that is, that, as you called it, the no compromise stance, being effective and not willing to back down when our rights are threatened.
Right. Yeah, no, we're not Gucci loafered lobbyists. We're gun guys that are upset of what the politicians are doing in Denver and in Washington, that are literally stripping away our rights, with in some cases with no due process, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, well, as they say, that old adage, there are only two enemies to a firearm: rust and politicians, and it
That is
seems
true.
more true than ever.
And I
So,
think politicians are even worse than Rust right now.
they're a lot quicker than rust to
Exactly.
destroy our firearms. Well, so can you tell us then, what are some of the political races that RMGO, what are you guys looking at this November here in Colorado?
Yeah, so our campaign appendages are really focusing in on 6 races. Of course, we're going to defend a few of our champions, and Kevin Van Winkle and Kim Ransom. They've been constant champions for us. And in addition, we're helping out a couple other races. We're supporting Marilyn Harris in House District 59. She has returned 100% survey and will be a great vote for gun owners. We're also supporting Stephanie Luck, who is exactly the same. Will be a great vote for gun owners. And then in one of the most influential seats in the state house is House District 27, which is now held by Brian Titone, who now goes by Brianna. But Vicky Pine will be a absolute champion, not just for the Second Amendment, but for a lot of liberty caused votes, and I'm super excited to have her in the state house. And additionally, the one last is Donald Rozier up in House District 25, and I think he has a real chance as well.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Yeah, those are some key seats for sure. Well, we definitely wish you all the best of luck there.
Yeah,
And, I actually ran into Brian Tition at an Arvada City Council meeting about a year ago. And Tition was advocating for municipal trash. And it was pretty telling. And you can see the Arvada City Council was going to put it on the ballot. Tition was fully in support of that. But then the Arvada City Council decided that, hey, the voters might turn it down. So they just decided to push through municipal trash without a vote of the people. So, a lot of people weren't there, but that was my first exposure to Tition. And it was very telling to see that kind of attitude towards the voters, towards the citizens of Arvada and the community. So.
Right. And, the interesting thing on her end, his end, whatever you want to call it, is that, she had taken a stand on supporting red flags, supporting bump stock bans, even though it was banned at a federal level, and other gun, legislation. And then the Democrats they're smart. They're smarter than we give them credit for. They said, hey, don't vote on these things. We'll count you absent. But we've got her on record saying, she supports this. There's no question about it. And then, let's not forget, she is one of the few that voted to defund the police, which is, a lot of Coloradans are extremely upset about that, because, our average response time, even in a metro area, for a police to show up is 8 minutes. And, if you're in a rural area, it's 15. So, defunding the police, while that may, for gun owners, I think you should be responsible for your own safety, but, a lot of the cops are more of forensic scientists than they are actual cops. But that's another discussion.
Yeah, good points. It's very interesting. Yeah, I wasn't aware about that. Tition was for defunding the police, but yeah. Yep. A lot of crazy battles going on right now, politically here in Colorado and nationally. Well, what do you think? So, the election's taking up all the bandwidth for the political types here right now, but what do you think the legislation, what kind of gun control legislation do you think those evil tyrants in Denver will try to impose upon us in 2021?
Yeah, so we know the lock up your safe and lost and stolen firearms are definitely coming back. We were fortunate enough to be able to stop those with some help of, COVID-19. If there's anything that it was good for, it was able to stop a few bad pieces of legislation. And thankfully our members stood up and said, hey, look, don't politicize this. And we'll move forward, and we can discuss it at another point. But those are certainly two that are coming up. Of course, the Attorney General has endorsed background checks for ammunition, which could possibly be California style. Of course, you're going to pay your ammunition fees, and then you're going to pay $10 more to have your ammunition, which is just it's just ridiculous to even think about. Additionally, we can talk about, the assault weapons ban. That's always looming. I feel like if Democrats really think they could get away with it, they certainly would. But there's countless gun legislation. I mean, the Bloomberg lobbyists are always in the ears of our politicians to push the most radical far left gun control. And really, Colorado's been a testing ground for it since 2013. So they're okay with testing it here.
Wow. Yeah, and I understand that Michael Bloomberg, this anti-gun criminal guy, has a big plot of land he got recently here in Colorado. So I can only expect that he would want to play or dabble a little bit more in our political scene, which is a very scary thought.
Right. Yeah. Speculation is he's trying to retire here. So bad politics could be around for a while if that is true.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, that's not a good thing. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Well, and Taylor, I'm definitely going to be watching all your RMGO updates and videos and everything you guys are putting out to stay informed about what's going on at the Capitol in the legislative session in these last couple weeks before the election.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we're not in session, but when you are, you can check out our website at rmgo.org/BillWatch, and that gives you a comprehensive list of all of the gun legislation that's being pushed through, pro or anti-gun. We track all of that, and we make that free to whether you're a member or not. But of course, we'd love to have you as a member.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely a member of RMGO, and I'm going to make sure I renew my membership here before the year is up.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate your membership.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate the work you guys do. So talking about some of the evil legislation that we're possibly expecting next year, let's talk about some of the good legislation that RMGO would like to see. So what kind of gun laws or repeals would RMGO like to see passed here in Colorado?
Yeah, so obviously when we were founded, Dudley's vision was to pass constitutional carry in Colorado. That dream is not lost. Really, that's still the number one piece of legislation that we would like to see passed. Of course, repealing the mag ban, we've obviously fought that in the courts. There still might be a avenue to repeal that in the courts. Can't really talk too much about that, but with California's ruling, if there is a federal precedent, we might be able to piggyback off of that, which would be super cool. Of course, repealing the red flag law that was passed last year. And then, Make My Day Better, which was championed by Justin Everett, now is championed by Sam Sandridge. Repealing gun-free zones, especially on school campuses. We have a lot of good, we have had a lot of good champions for gun rights that are always willing to run those bills for us.
That's awesome. Well, tell the viewers here, what is constitutional carry? If they're not aware of that, what does that mean? What would constitutional carry look like here in Colorado if that was passed?
Yeah, so constitutional carry essentially it restores your gun rights back to its original form. That if you own a firearm, you should be able to legally carry it without asking the government for permission or paying a tax to the government. And without being on a list or anything of that nature. So essentially, if you're able to purchase a firearm, you're able to carry it. It's that simple. For some reason, it's a foreign concept to some people that the Second Amendment was written for this, but for most common people with common sense, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you're legally able to own the gun, why can't you carry it on you for self-defense purposes? It doesn't make any sense that you wouldn't be able to.
Right.
And especially in a situation like in Denver where they have a ban on open carry, what's a person to do? I mean, to me, it seems pretty discriminatory if a person can't necessarily afford to take the time off to go to the classes, to pay for the permits, to pay for the holster, all of those different things, then how are they able to defend themselves?
Right.
They're really not able to.
Right. I think all in with my permit, I think, with class and the permit fee for the city and county of Denver, I think it was like $300 total. I mean, that is your you're discriminating against people of lower class that literally can't afford that. That's one of the arguments that we made against the safe storage bill. Look, we understand. Excuse me. Look, we understand that we want to keep our firearms safe and do this, that, and the other. But some people don't have the means to lock up their safe in $1,000 gun safe.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point too. I mean, gun laws, these gun control laws, not only are they evil, but they only affect the law abiding. So somebody
Right.
who's trying to do the right thing, who's trying not to be a criminal, they're now penalized for they're not able to defend themselves without these expensive costs, whereas
Right.
the criminals, they don't care that their criminals are going to break the law anyway. They're not going to check the gun law before they rob that bank or rob
Right.
somebody's home or try and murder somebody. I mean, the gun laws only penalize the law abiding, and so often they're maybe on a fixed income, elderly, poor, what have you, and they're not able to jump through all these hoops. So I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is. It is indeed.
Well, yeah, and so we talked about constitutional carry, repealing the magazine ban. So right now in Colorado, there's a 15-round limit on the magazines you can legally buy. And then let's see here. I think you brought up also the universal background checks. A lot of people think that's a good idea, but in reality, it's actually just a gun registration scheme, is it not?
Right. Yeah, it is. So, I mean, a lot of people, even some of the hardcore gunnies that we talk to, sometimes we lose them on this because we're saying, hey, they don't want a crazy person with a gun, right? Right. Nobody does. No one wants somebody that's going to purposely buy a gun to go harm somebody with a gun. But where the universal background checks is, and especially in Colorado, because having a gun registration is absolutely illegal. Essentially filing that paperwork, the 4477 with the ATF, you're essentially signing your name and saying, hey, it's okay that you keep my name on file for 7 years and know that I own this firearm. Personally, I don't want anyone knowing the firearms that I own, for not even the ATF or state government or CBI.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think once people realize that universal background checks is really just code for gun registration, universal gun registration, that should scare a lot of people, anybody who's a legal gun owner, because we've heard, from the current vice president candidate on the Democrats, Kamala Harris, talk about gun confiscation schemes. And these gun confiscation schemes have been a big thing for the Democrats over the last years. And well, what are they going to look at? They're going to look at the list of gun registration. They're going to say, well, who owns the guns? They know you own a gun, and they could potentially try and come and take it from you. So I mean, that's a very, very frightening thought.
Right, and that's kind of what we're seeing with our red flag law that was just passed last year. I mean, essentially, if my neighbor in my apartment complex knows that I have a gun, he could call the police and say, "Hey, Taylor's crazy. This guy is bringing guns in and out of his apartment every day, and I don't think he should have guns. He's mentally defect. He's yelling at people at the Capitol every day. I mean, this guy's crazy." I mean, that's as good as a search warrant to no-knock raid your homes. And that's, not to go too much into the social justice thing, but if you look at the Breonna Taylor story, I mean, that's essentially red flagging there. Well, it wasn't a gun case. You're looking at a no-knock raid that essentially killed a gun owner because they had their gun, ready to fire.
Wow, yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. I don't think a lot of people have considered that, but yeah, that seems pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Very frightening. And then you talked a little bit about the campus carry or carry on school grounds. I know one of the biggest champions that RMGO has had, or the state of Colorado has had over recent years, is Pat Neville,
Right.
current House Minority Leader in the state House, Republican from Douglas County. But he was actually at Columbine when that terrible, terrible shooting tragedy happened back in 1999. And he knew friends who died, and
Right.
to rely basically, why do you have a gun? Well, it's to protect yourself from the bad guys. Well, if you're at a school, it's a soft target, and some crazy person, as we've seen happen before, knows that there's not a lot of armed people there. If you say that it's a gun-free zone, well, then it's a place where people can be targeted a lot easier.
Right.
So
It's truly a sad situation that our leftists are so polarized by even the word gun or firearm that they're that they're willing to put our kids at risk and our teachers at risk, really, for that matter.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot to consider, and the gun rights battle, at least for me, is one of the most fundamental issues in terms of the liberty movement. The whole idea that you own yourself, because if you don't have the right to defend yourself, then what rights do you have?
Right.
You know, and that's kind of what got me prompted into getting involved politically as well. It sounds like, you know, that's kind of what, like you said, that's what kept you in the fight. And I think especially, you know, these hundreds of thousands of new gun owners here in Colorado, hopefully it kind of prompts them to say, well, you know, I have the right to defend myself. That's why I bought a firearm. But the politicians maybe want to take that right away from you. And that's something people need to wake up to, because it's a very, very real thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Taylor, tell us a little bit about how these Colorado gun owners, you know, how they can defend their rights.
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way is to join RMGO. We're your voice at the Capitol. I'll just call it how it is. The NRA is essentially non-existent in Colorado. They're going to send you mail and they're going to ask for money. But one of the most frustrating things in my view, and I'll touch on 2 points. One, in the red flag fight, which was arguably one of the biggest gunfights that Colorado has ever seen, they didn't show up until literally the last day that it passed on the floor in the Senate. That's when they decided that it was important for them to show up. I'm a life member of the NRA. I am. That's and to me, I was like, I was stolen from. My money was stolen. They told me that they were gonna be there fighting for me, and they weren't. And that's just unacceptable. I can assure you that we will be at the Capitol fighting for every gun owner in the state. And it's critical. We're not funded by millionaires or billionaires. We're funded by grassroots donors. And it is absolutely critical that grassroots donors join the fight, and that their voice is heard at the Capitol. And financial contributions aren't the only way. Signing petitions, signing letters, sending in postcards. When we send hundreds of thousands of postcards, and every legislator in the Capitol wants me to tell them to stop, and I say, well, vote the right way, and I will. You know, there's more than one way to get involved, but joining is the obvious first step. Get on our email list, and pay attention.
Perfect. I'll make sure to put a link to RMGO and to become a member in the below part of the video, or the comments there in the description.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And I understand you guys are giving away. One of my favorite things you guys do is the gun giveaways. I mean, that is awesome. Who doesn't want a free gun? So what do you guys got? I hear there's a gun giveaway going on right now.
So this is actually one of the coolest gun giveaways that we've obviously given away the bigger guns and things like that. But I'm a Glock fanboy, I'll admit it. And it's just one of the things that I do. I only carry Glock. Anything else, we'll probably get some backlash on that, but whatever. We have a Gray Ghost Precision that we're giving away, which is essentially a Glock, and it is sweet. It is super cool. And right now we have a giveaway. It's open till the 15th or 30th of November. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you can get it. You can enter. If you could throw a link in the description as well for the giveaway. That is one of the best ways to and it's actually a petition, to Take Back Colorado petition, and by signing that petition, you'll be entered to win. So it's super exciting. I want it for myself.
Oh, that's awesome. And is it in 9mm?
It is in 9, the best
well,
caliber.
What are you gonna do? You can't find any ammo for it.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, Taylor. Appreciate your time today, and keep up the good fight. I hope we can keep in touch in the future and talk more about some of the threats facing our Colorado gun owners. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Brandon. I appreciate your time, and if you ever need me, please just give me a call.
All right, sir. Sounds good. Take care.
Thanks.